What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Oxygen Not Included. Now we are on the Tomato asteroid and cleaning that out quite significantly with 3 duplicants and I think 3 rovers in total. The idea here is that I'm going to dig out as much of this as possible to get the liquid to be sort of all confined to one area. I can then obviously process it. Whether I process it here or at home, I think home's the most obvious choice. And then we have water. There's plenty of salt water on this asteroid, so that'll be good. This guy's sleeping in the hab, and really I'd rather him sleep in the actual base that I've set up for him, though. Morale-wise, this is probably better for him and them. This food, of course, needs taking in. It will take them a little bit of time. There is only 3 of them. They're not the best diggers. I will give them the abilities that they need as they need them, and not before, just in case. I don't want to stress them out too much. It is capped off, so it isn't subject to the vacuum of space. Along there, you can see it is capped off, and then there is a door, sealed door, to stop any issues. Plenty of oxygen, actually, and we did have a meteor, or a couple of times now we've had meteors that are the oxalite. I make an effort to grab those and store them in the chests. If the oxygen is fine, of course, it will just not off gas because it will be capped. But if the gas is low, then the oxalite will off gas from the storage containers and obviously provide oxygen for the base. Did see some bleach stone about that we need to deal with, but to be honest, if they hurry up and dig this out, all of them resources will be underwater and nothing will off gas anyway. Of course, there are many things to do. The rovers can only do so much. The duplicants can do, well, everything as long as they have the ability to. Now, what I'm setting is that the duplicants dig and the rovers clean up, mainly because 90%-ish of the stuff that needs to be dug, the rovers won't be able to do anyway. I did look for a mod to make them more useful. The only mod you can really get is that they could recharge, which I do have, so I could build a machine for them to recharge so that they last forever, as long as they've got power, of course. But I'm not that fussed, because other than cleaning, they actually make an awful noise as they're doing things, so it's a bit annoying. There you can see a gold volcano capped off. I capped it off from the left-hand side out because they were taking forever to dig that left-hand side, so I just built the wall and then built away from it. And then higher up, you saw next to the ladder, there is also one that is capped off. That is aluminium, or aluminum if you are American. Of course, most of this that needs to be dug out will require the ladders, so I'll put them in place to allow them to reach these various areas. I'd like to forget about it a little bit and come back to it. And the last thing I need is to forget about it, come back and remember, or realise that I forgot to do this part, which would be very annoying. Interplanetary resource thrower sender cannon thing. Getting that set up now. It does need rad bolts, but I'm cheesing that based on how I did at home. I am just going to set these up on the surface, which of course there is radiation in space all the time, and they will absorb that and eventually use that to power this machine. Then all I need to do is plumb in some of the piping so I can get the items that I want. Really what I'm after is the liquids, of course, we know this, but also some slime, if we have any. I'll be definitely interested in sending that back because the mushroom farm, which was our biggest sort of backup for sustenance for all of the nutrition for all the duplicants, is all out. We've run out of all the slime that we had on the original asteroid has been consumed. So I'll get that over. Any eggshells or eggs or anything like that. There is poke shell population here as well, so if I can figure out how to do that. Of course, you won't do it through this interplanetary thing. We will send the poke shells over, of course. The rockets will have to do the critters. A lot of wiring required to do this, and also a bit of automation, seeing as we already have the refined materials. Anyway, the refined materials came from those volcanoes that have eventually cooled down. Did lose a duplicate, as I'm sure you're aware. We lost that right at the beginning. All of this needs to be dug out so I can get a better access to this salt water and get a much better dig. Once they've completed that first section, of course, I'll jump over. Power-wise, on this planet, I was using the wood, the lumber. We had 18,000 units. It sounded a lot, but it's not. It burns through it very quickly. So what we need to do is actually get some glass. I think is the easiest way. We can make glass at home, send it here, unpack it, and make a solar panel. It's only 200 glass per solar panel. They're about 300 watts. So three solar panels should keep us going. Obviously at night we'll have a problem, but any surplus will get stored anyway. Currently in the process of upgrading all of the cable to be the 2 kilowatt cable, so that we don't have that red flash in there, and making sure that these things run without any breakages. At the minute, all that's really powering is the rad bolt generators. They require a decent amount of power, to be honest. The rest of the base isn't using that much at all. So putting in the shipping pipe to allow us to basically send the goods there from the base. As you can see, I am wiring it in. So they don't have to go up and out into space. They don't have to do too much at all. From the comfort of the storage room that you can see there where the food is and a couple of beds, they can just put the priority into that machine. That machine will then send it up into the payload, interplanetary payload sender. Once that gets to its limit, which is 200 kilos, I believe, and it has the rad bolts, of course. That's the most complicated part about what we're doing. It will then fire, and it will fire to our home planet. They'll open it and get them resources. So coming back home for a little bit and getting some more fish out of there to boost our food. 250,000 calories at the minute, but I am aware that the farms are sluggish or failing ever so slightly, whether it be temperature or lack of fertilization. The hatchlings, or hatchers actually, they're adults, are doing quite well. Our population on poke shells are decent as well. The Dracos, I don't know what's happening, and if anybody knows, please do let me know. They keep vanishing. They're not dying off, or if they are, I don't understand why, because they're being fed and they have the proper climate. I have not on this occasion. I know it's not my fault by just selecting the whole map to kill everything. So I keep losing them. I get a stock of the glossy Dracos for the plastic. They vanish. I then get the normal Dracos and start. At the minute though, they're all over the place. It's getting a bit messy. I'm having a few issues with mod contradictions as it stands at the minute. But because they are so ingrown now into everything that I've done, it's almost impossible for me to fix it. I have tried, which is why these episodes have been staggered apart more. It's because I've been trying to debug and fix it, but I am not a modder and I'm not great with code, so it's just a case of fumbling across, turning a mod on, turning a mod off. But normally turning a mod off at this stage is game breaking because it's been used somewhere. Just to bring you back what I've previously mentioned, there is a meteor shower currently happening, and well, we're also haven't got enough power, but there's a meteor shower currently happening, as you can see, which is oxalite, as I've said. So getting the guys out to collect that immediately under, because obviously it's always off-gassing, and in the vacuum of space it would just be a waste. So I will get that dug up, brought into the base, and then I'll use that oxygen in the base, and it's free, right? The oxygen in the base is really only coming from this, and this is why I can't bring any more people over and why I'm using rovers, is because other than the few plants I've got down at the bottom of the base that are turning the carbon dioxide back into oxygen, which is minimal at best, and actually currently they're not there at all because obviously I've dug it all out. So the only oxygen I have is what's trapped under that platform that I've made, and all of this oxalite that I keep getting. Now it is quite common, which is very lucky, so getting that into the chests, if it gets to max pressure it doesn't off gas, so it saves it. So if you want to try and save it more efficiently, then put it in a smaller room so it hits the pressure load and then just doesn't off gas, and then you can keep it for a bit longer. For now it seems to be working, so I'm not going to break it while it's working. There's a lot of other things breaking that I need to deal with, so I'll let them go. If worst case scenario is that they're running out of oxygen, there's nothing I can do, that's what the rocket's still there for. So this is the point in game that I actually realised that the power issues on the Tomato asteroid were a problem, in that the wood, although it was working fine, yeah, it gets a bit quick. I just assumed 18,000 units of wood would last months, if not years, but apparently not. So I am now in the process of course, sorting that out. To get glass over there, we have a little bit, and then get some made. I will then chuck it into this system here, as you can see. It will get chucked into there, into the interplanetary thing that's already on the surface and built, and then I will immediately use that to make solar panels on the other asteroid. That way, slowly building up. I think with the math, like I said, it's sort of in between 2.5 and 3.5, depending on what's happening. For the generators of the rad bolts alone, 2 of them running permanently, which they will be until obviously it's full. It needs 3, so we need 3 solar panels going, and then when they're full and while they're in idle mode, which they automatically turn off because of the automation, 2 is enough to run the rest of the base. I don't think I've got any refrigerators or anything, so I will probably need to send some food over. I've considered getting the mod that you can do wireless, so wireless power and wireless transfer. Because the teleport that we've got currently takes us to that first place, which is called Gragusta or something. Correction, I think it's something like it's 𝐷𝐄𝐒, right? I don't know how you pronounce it, Graguto. Anyway, that planet has the teleportation available for solids, liquids, and gases and people. Although the people are one every so many days. It just fired then, right? Did I miss that? Yeah, there it is. The payload is in space. So that's the first batch of 200. So that's 1 solar panel on its way in raw resources to Tomato Planet. Which, looking at Tomato Planet, you'd think it'd be more orange than green. But anyway, I'm calling it Tomato, even though it's not actually called Tomato. But I'm sure you'd agree it's close enough. When it arrives here, we empty that. Gives us the glass. That will then unlock the ability to build the solar panel. We'll get that in and wired in, and that'll be some free energy in the daytime. And then at home, unfortunately, I am going to have to try and make glass the horrible way, which is the way that I try and get around. Now, you can do it with 𝐷𝐄𝐄s, I'm sure you can. It's the mod for the extra 𝐷𝐄𝐄s. But I haven't got there, and as I've said, I'm having issues with the 𝐷𝐄𝐄s keep vanishing. I'm not sure if it's me doing something wrong, if they are dying for a genuine reason, but it's not telling me, or if it's on the basis that there's a bug. Again, a lot of mods are starting to cause me problems with so much going on, especially this home planet, which is probably the messiest one I've ever done. Although it's a large super base that I'm calling it, it's a bit messier on the other side. Like the farms is a perfect example. I like the way I built them and separated them by the insulation, but realistically I should have had a gap between the insulation. In a perfect world, that gap would have been a vacuum. Then there would have been 0 chance of farms affecting farms. But even with gas in there, it still wouldn't transfer that quick. Now I'm trying to use that cold down at the bottom that's always too cold to send into the base. We had this problem a few episodes back, and then use that to cool down the glass and turn it into a solid, but it's gonna break. I'm not gonna waste your time looking at it because it doesn't work. It does cool it down into a glass, but then it breaks everything because it turns into a solid too quick. So realistically, what I need to do is just drop the molten glass somewhere out of the way, let that heat dissipate throughout the gases, cool it down into a solid. As soon as it's a solid, send it over to the Tomato Planet. Then turn it into a solar panel, all on the surface in a vacuum that won't dissipate to the duplicants and bother them anyway. So yes, it's throwing a problem away, but it's a logical problem that if something's 1,000, well, it's not 1,000 degrees, it's about 600 degrees, I think it starts to turn into a solid. And obviously you're in a vacuum, it can't radiate out, right? So it's safer. They just need to get it from point A to point B, and maybe I should have built that setup on the surface, actually, thinking about it. Well, no, because if it's on the surface, it's in a vacuum, and then the liquid won't cool down to a solid. So that's not going to work. Unfortunately, I seem to have muted this. I've had a few issues with the system I'm using. Muting it where I'm not supposed to. Anyway, there's no background noise, but there's still me at least. Hopefully this is recording. Anyway, as you notice, I opened the door on the top of that water vent there because there was a lot of oxygen building up and it wasn't escaping through that vent quick enough. So I've opened the door and that's allowed a lot more oxygen to push over to this side. I've done that for the simple reason that the duplicates are going there to do the glass, and they were struggling because they wasn't able to get that far without breathing. Randomly some steel there when I actually want glass there, but anyway, it needs powering. Of course, the powering needs to be on its own wire and its own transformer because it is 1200 watts, which is what you can see there. I'm just waiting for them to actually get around to doing it. Okay, so with the first solar panel in and wired up, we now need to look at getting some plumbing pipes in going down to that bottom. Effectively, the power that we have is going to be running that interplanetary sender. I don't see a refrigerator, no, so that's it, and then some pumps. The pumps will pump this water or salt water to the same thing. I'm not sure if it's going to work though. The interplanetary thing having a cap of 200 is really small, so I need probably a better way of doing it, but we'll see. And then we'll send it over and then it will get converted and go into its retrospective tank. Obviously 99.9% of it is going to go into the clean water tank because I'm not storing it at the home base. It's going to be instantly processed and then put into storage. Depending on what temperatures it's at, I will need to look at that to make sure that my water storage doesn't get too warm, because of course I am sending that water everywhere, including the farms and all of the bathrooms and hospitals, and I don't want it to get above sort of 20. Anything above 28, 29 is a bit warm for the water because it holds that temperature. It will then warm up all the areas it's going to as well. And I really want to keep the base around the 25, 26 mark where possible. You can see already there, actually looking at the screen, that water's getting warm. So we need a way of cooling that down. Here's the cooling system failing miserably. As soon as the liquid gas hits that bottom there where it's on the radiant pipe, the heat transfer does its job, immediately transfers, turning the molten glass into solid gas, breaking the pipe and making a mess and making all of that area too hot. So I skipped you all of the boring science of me trying to be smart and it just failing miserably. Serious issue now with the hydrogen. We've got so much, it's backed up, everything is backing up with that. We have a good amount of natural gas. You can see it's almost full, but we have automated on that so I can turn off the pumps. The gas, we can't turn off the hydrogen because to turn off the hydrogen production means turning off the oxygen production. So I need a way of using it. Now I can use it for power, but it's a waste because I don't need any power. Looking at the numbers for hydrogen into liquid hydrogen for cryogenic fuels that I wanted to do, you need to get it to negative 252. I'm not sure how easy or difficult that is. I've never actually got anything down to that temperature before. That's quite significant. So that's going to be a challenge. Any tips, let me know. Again, I'm not going to search for a video of how to do it nice and simple in like 4 blocks, because although that's wonderful, I like to try and do it myself, or at least try and use the community if I can. I did consider building in that whole box down there that's just a wasted space, chucking a load of hydrogen engines in there and using that. Alternatively, can I transfer it to another planet, i.e. Garito would be a good planet to send it to. Good timing, because that's when I was thinking about it. And I could send it over here easily using the teleporter that's there right in front of the middle of the screen, and then use it to power some hydrogen generators here. Hydrogen generators are fantastic because they give off a lot of power and they are totally clean. But what do I need to do here? Nothing really. It's a bit of a mess. It's one of them things where I'm not sure it's in our best interest, and it's breaking open. That's not an issue though, because they would come over with Atmo suits on. There's a lot of polluted oxygen here, but we could soon clean that up. There is oil, and oil turns into petroleum, petroleum into plastics, or the petroleum into the petroleum rocket, which, to be honest, is also an option for a rocket, equal to the hydrogen rocket, but less of a problem and actually doable for me, because the liquid hydrogen I'm not sure I can do. Looking back at base now, you can see we've actually got 4, which is keeping our power ticking along. I cheesed it though there. That actually worked really nicely. The top of that volcano, I chucked a couple of steel tiles in. I don't know the word, but basically spread the heat out. 2 thermo generators in there. Keep it cool enough. As long as they don't stop, they are fine. 1 in there wasn't enough to cool it down. It kept getting too hot. They have to be made of steel, so you will have to send it over unless you've already got it there, of course. Another payload there you can see of some glass arrived, so that's another solar panel we can build should we need to, which having 5 will be more than enough to move forward. It's still a bit warm, but again, it don't matter because it's going to be in the above the base in the vacuum of space anyway. So yeah, the power's looking good there, and we can use them resources as we need, where we need, moving forward. And just looking at the rockets back at base, waiting to go elsewhere to put whatever's needed to go in there. It's full of steam, so it's ready to go. It just needs what it needs. However, we are at an issue now and an impasse that I'm unable to fix. Building certain buildings is fine, though most of them are the ones I don't need. This is a beacon to tell the payloads where to go. Building pretty much 90% of everything else, including the walls, the ladders, the poles, any of the bricking, the installation, the doors. It's just crashing the game now, and I can't seem to figure out why. It's been crashing for about 3 days, and I'm at a stage now where I'd rather just, instead of not giving you content, try and probably do another series. If there's anything you can think of, please do let me know. Any ideas on, of course, what you'd like me to do with this series to finish it off per se, let me know. We'll move over to a new one. I'm probably not going to do the rocket one. We'll see how we go. But you're about to see here some bricks. If I try and do them, it locks up. Locking up's not good, but it's the only option I've got at the minute. But we are at kind of time for an episode anyway, so I will end it here and await your comments and look to another season. If not, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please click like. Any comments are welcome. As always, join us on Discord. Subscribe for more. Take care. Goodbye.